Hello everyone and welcome to my 2024 movies tier list. I have about 60 movies that I watched last year on this tier list and we're going to put them in these tiers. We have peak, great, good, meh, and trash. I'm not sure how long this video is going to be, so I'm going to put timestamps in the description. That way you could click around and see your favorite movies of last year, see what I have to say about them. So yeah, maybe that'll make it more enjoyable for you. The first movie up is Abigail, and while I wanted it to be peak, the ending is a bit, I guess, bloated, or it's trying to do too much. So it's going to go in great, but it is still one of my favorite movies of last year. It made it into my top 10. Go check out my top 10 movies of 2024 to hear more about Abigail. Now, Imaginary. Oh, we got our first trash. Did not expect it to be this early. Imaginary was trash. It has such a cool premise, imaginary friends, and a horror movie that could be really cool, but it was really boring, and I was just waiting for it to be over, and I was very disappointed by it. Speaking of, well, actually not disappointed by it, I am not a big fan of the first platform movie, and, the first platform movie would have gone in, like, meh, maybe bottom of good. The platform 2 did not care about any of the characters. I thought the big guy, especially, was really unlikable. Just did not care whatsoever. I'm putting it under Imaginary just because I don't ever want to watch this thing again. Next up is In a Violent Nature, and it was one of my most anticipated movies of the year, man. When I saw that trailer, when I heard the premise, following the killer himself, heck yeah. As much as I did like it, it is slow, and I knew it was going to be slow. And I was actually fine with those parts, but then we get introduced to our, like, campers, or the teens, or the young adults, whatever they are, that are going to get killed in this movie. They spend a lot of time talking around a campfire, giving backstory on Johnny. That kind of took me out of it. I wanted it to be just Johnny walking in the woods, and it's cool that they wanted to give us a little bit of exposition on his backstory, but we could have had him just like walking by and then overhearing the explanation. So while I really want to put it in good, it's like very top of meh. My heart, though, I'm going to leave it in good. My heart wants to leave it in good because I did like it. It just was ever so slightly underwhelming. Oh boy, and now we have The Mousetrap, probably one of the worst movies I've ever seen, not just of last year, just in general. I have nothing good to say about it. The kills weren't great, the acting wasn't great. The whole reason for the Steamboat Willie mask coming into play for this movie is so dumb. It's just like a demonic voice like, oh, put me on and kill these people, haha. It's awful. It is truly awful. Alright, we've had a string of not so great movies, but Longlegs on the other hand. Longlegs was really good. It's going to go in great. Nick Cage as Longlegs is fantastic. Just one of the best performances of the year. Very good detective movie with some demonic elements thrown in there. There was a lot of Satan stuff in this thing, and I was not expecting that. It left me feeling really uneasy, and I was just like feeling tense the whole movie, waiting for something to happen. Longlegs was really cool, one of the best horror movies of the year. I know a lot of people aren't a big fan of it, but I really liked Longlegs. And now we're back to some slop. We got the Borderlands movie, which I just watched a few days ago, and a small part of me was saying there's no way it's that bad. And I didn't expect it to be good, but I was like, please just be somewhat enjoyable. And it's just not. It has its moments, and by moments, I mean like 2. Even though Claptrap can be a bit annoying, he has his moments. Jack Black did an alright job there. Jamie Lee Curtis at least looked like she was having fun. Yeah, that's all I can give it. But we're about to redeem ourselves, ladies and gentlemen, because we have Wicked. It's going in peak. I didn't even want to see Wicked, but then one day I'm like, you know what? I'll give it a shot. I went to the theater and I was a changed man. I cried at the ending. I love the characters. I love all the songs. I loved all the performances. Although it looks a bit rough because of like the backlighting, like the sun peering through all the windows, making it hard to see some of their faces sometimes. I get it. I get it. People were complaining about the way the movie looks, but I can overlook that because it is just such a fun movie. Top 5 of the year for me. And now I don't know how people will feel about this, but The First Omen was considered one of the best horror movies of the year, if not the best of the year, and I get it. While The First Omen was good, it just didn't leave me with anything to take away after I was done, if that makes any sense. About a week went by, and even now I can't tell you anything about the movie other than there's some good performances in there. It wasn't a waste of time, just nothing about it really stuck with me. So for my own little personal reasons, I'm going to keep it in good. And next up we have The Killer's Game, another movie I was pretty excited for because I love my boy Batista so much, and this was a lot of fun. It's just straight action pretty much all the way through. Probably top of good, very bottom of great. There's a lot of cool fight scenes in it, I'll give it that. If you want to just turn your brain off and go watch Big Dave kick some ass, that's the movie for you. Drew McIntyre is also in this thing. Terry Crews as well. I think everybody does a good job in this. It looks really cool in some of the fight scenes as well. Like, it's just a good time. Next up, we have Despicable Me 4. I liked the first movie a whole bunch. The second one is okay. The third one started to lose me, but the fourth one, it kind of picked itself back up. Bottom of good. I did enjoy this movie quite a bit. The superhero minions, you know, I thought I was gonna not like them a whole bunch, but I did. Maybe I'll shuffle it around as the list goes on. Probably top of meh, but I'll put it in good because you know what? I did enjoy it. Deadpool and Wolverine, one of the most fun times I've had at a theater. The fight scenes are great. The soundtrack is great. This movie goes in peak. I know some people are saying it's a bit overrated / it's not that good. I get it has its problems, but for me, this thing, it was just a whole bunch of fun, and I haven't gone back and rewatched it. Maybe I'll feel differently after a rewatch, but just in the moment, from the opening credits, you know, the bye bye bye, Deadpool dancing around, killing a bunch of guys, all the way to the very end of the movie, I had a giant smile on my face. It goes in peak. You might disagree, and that's alright. Next up is Monkey Man, very fun action movie, but just like the First Omen, you know, not only do they have similar posters, it's a movie where I can recognize its greatness, but it just didn't really do much for me. However, I will say I was really tired when I watched this movie, and I was dozing off, so if I watched it with fresh eyes and I was wide awake, I'd probably feel a bit differently about the movie. So for now, I'm gonna put it in good above Despicable Me 4. But not above the First Omen. Bad Boys Ride or Die, one of the best action movies of the year. If you haven't seen it, you're missing a whole bunch of fun. Martin Lawrence and Will Smith, they still got it. I love all the Bad Boys movies, and this just might be my favorite one. It's almost peaked. I will say, after I left the theater, I was in love with this thing for about a week, but as time has gone by, I'm slowly forgetting a lot of the things that happen in it, and I don't want to call the movie forgettable, because still it's in my head as one of the best action movies I've seen in recent years. So it's gonna go top of great, but just not quite peak. Now here's a surprising one, Arthur the King. I thought it was gonna be another bland Mark Wahlberg movie, but hey, there's a dog, and it kind of is that, but I was really emotionally invested in this story because it's based off a true story. The first half of the movie, the dog isn't really even there, but I was still invested because they're doing like this marathon thing, and there's one point where they take a shortcut where they have to zip line across like a giant valley, and the zip line breaks or comes loose or whatever, and it's actually really intense. For a second, I thought I was watching like a thriller / horror movie. They somehow made me care about this movie that I don't think anybody else cared about. It's going in great, because I had no intentions of loving this movie, but I just don't know. I loved Arthur the King way more than I thought I would. Speaking of loving it way more than I thought I would, if the imaginary friend movie that doesn't suck, get out of here, imaginary, Ryan Reynolds is back at it again. Bunch of colorful characters, a bunch of ifs running around. This is a very wholesome and heartwarming movie. This actually made it into my top 10, and I believe it placed just under Abigail, and that's where I'm going to put it in great. This nearly made me tear up towards the end because the story is about reconnecting imaginary friends with their kids who are now adults and, you know, living their everyday lives, and we see them interact and be like, hey, I'm your imaginary friend, and it's like so damn wholesome. It worked on me. Whatever this movie was trying to do, it worked for me. If was so damn good. Alright, this one's gonna give me the most hate out of any opinion. I am not a fan of the Dune movies. The first one is okay at best, kinda boring. The second one, I don't even want to say slightly better, it's probably just as fine. It's going in meh. Dune does not move me in the slightest. I will admit, Timothée Chalamet, he's cool. Lisa Nagaib, all that stuff, heck yeah, man. There aren't very many positives that I can give Dune other than it's well acted and it looks kind of cool scenery-wise, like, you know, Arrakis, that planet is all cool and stuff for the most part. Needs more worm shenanigans. Just not my kind of thing. I can recognize that it's good. It doesn't move me. I'm sorry. A movie that almost moved me, not as much as others, but, you know, I'll give it credit. Transformers 1, just as good as everybody says it is. People are kind of going nuts for this thing, but I wouldn't go that far, but it is still really, really good. I'm gonna put it top of good, since I've said that word like 8 times already. It just doesn't reach great for me. Brian Tyree Henry as Megatron, highlight of the movie though, for sure. Also, Keegan-Michael Key as Bumblebee was also a lot of fun. But yeah, Transformers 1, really good story. I would happily watch a sequel. Just the only reason it's a bit low is just because a touch overhyped. Nothing crazy though. Next up is Twisters, and I didn't really care a whole lot for it, but the more tornado shenanigans we had as the movie progressed, especially at the end with the movie theater, you know, the more I started to like it. It felt like way more of a romance movie, which I'm fine with that. Glenn Powell is charming, of course, but the first half of the movie didn't do much for me, but but as things started to ramp up, I was like, alright, I get why people are loving this thing. Probably somewhere in the middle of good, probably just a touch under the killer's game. Another movie I was really excited for, just off the title alone, Nightbitch. Amy Adams, she's the absolute star of the show here. She took this very seriously, and she's great in this role. I love how wacky it was going to get, and there are some weird moments in it that I absolutely loved, and I wish it went full force into the weirdness. It does have a really good message behind it with like mothers having a really tough job and sometimes going a little bit underappreciated. It's gonna go top of meh, I'm sorry. If it went full into the Amy Adams is becoming a dog kind of thing, it does, but it doesn't go all the way. I wanted it to full send into like campy madness, but it tells a good story kind of. It just, I really wish it went to that next level. It's just meh for me. And here we have The Fall Guy. God damn it, Ryan Gosling and Emily Blunt. You'll get me to watch anything. When I first watched it, it was a bit low on my list, but that's because I watched the extended cut. It was like 20 extra minutes of stuff that maybe didn't need to be needed. So I watched the standard normal version that was like a bit shorter, and I still enjoyed it, maybe a touch more. It almost made it into my top 10. I believe I had it at like number 11. So this almost passed Challengers. We'll get to Challengers in a bit. The Fall Guy was so much fun. You can't go wrong with a movie like this. It's just a lot of like stunts and fight scenes and cool moments, and it's also a comedy, so it's funny. Just, yeah, everything worked. Actually, you know what? I'm going to put it above Arthur the King and maybe ever so slightly above Longlegs. I think The Fall Guy is the only 2024 movie I've gone back and rewatched, so I guess that tells you something. Next up is A Quiet Place Day 1. I think it's good. I will say this, while watching it, there was stuff happening around me that kind of took my attention away from the movie. So maybe if I gave it a rewatch, it would move up a couple of spots, but I think it's like very bottom of good. In my opinion, it's the weakest Quiet Place movie. Part 2 isn't particularly all that great, but it does have at least a few moments in there that I really liked. Day 1 was just like fine. I don't think it needed to be made, but it is interesting enough to where I'm not mad that it got made, if that makes sense. And now here we have Furiosa. I watched this in theaters, thought it was great, but I watched it early in the morning for showing, you know, so I was kind of still just waking up. It is still an epic-ass movie. It didn't do well in the box office, which is a shame because Anya Taylor-Joy and Chris Hemsworth were acting their asses off in this. This movie looks great. It's really fun. A lot of cool action sequences. It's gonna go in bottom of great. I was planning on rewatching this thing, but I haven't gotten around to it. And just like a few of these other movies, after a rewatch, it probably will jump up a few spots. Hell, if I got to it before my top 10 came out, it might have even made it to the top 10. Speaking of top 10, we have Flow. This came in at number 3, and the more I've sat with it, it's going in peak already, by the way. There's like a couple of videos where I've talked about it. I made a short about it recently. Hell, I think I've made 2 shorts about it. I love Flow. I can't get enough. No dialogue, just nice animals on a epic journey. Flow is just hanging around my number 1 movie of the year. If I could redo that top 10 list, I think Flow might just be number 1 or number 2 at least. I think it goes above Deadpool and Wolverine. Flow is fantastic. I've already praised it so much, but it's so damn good. Now a movie that was slightly disappointing for me, it is Godzilla x Kong, The New Empire. Now I love my MonsterVerse monsters. Kong and Godzilla are awesome. It feels like we were heavily focused on the human stuff. The last 30 minutes where they have like a tag team match, it kicks ass, where they are going through the portal or whatever. This movie has almost killed my love of the MonsterVerse. Maybe I'm being a bit too dramatic because I'm still hyped for anything they come out with. But this thing should have kicked way more ass, and it only did the last tiny chunk of it. Just stop focusing on the human stuff, although I love Rebecca Hall to death. Just focus on these big fellas beating the hell out of each other, or beating the hell out of other things. That's all you gotta do. It's gonna go in meh. Slightly above Dune 2. I felt like Nightbitch at least told a good story. This was just kind of like whatever. Here we have Tuesday, Julia Louis-Dreyfus, The Queen That You Are. It's going in great, such an emotional ride. I love the bird that represents death, or that I guess is death. This movie is so damn good. It was another one of my highly anticipated movies. I saw the trailer and nearly teared up just watching the trailer alone, and this movie nearly made me cry. There is a chunk in the middle of Tuesday that it takes like a weird turn that kind of threw me off of it, but then it quickly picked itself back up off the ground. I was like, okay, we're back. But if it didn't have that, it would have definitely made it into my top 10. But it's still a really great movie. If you want a movie with emotion and really good acting, Tuesday is the movie for you. Now we have Stop Motion. This thing is going in peak. just a smidge above Wicked. Actually, Wicked is so much fun, but Stop Motion I think is a better movie overall, so it's going above Wicked, but either way, it's going in peak. Stop Motion is such a damn good movie, bro. I love stop motion animation, and I love the horror genre. Stop motion and horror are the perfect pair, and this is creepy, gross, and as the movie is winding down, we get some truly incredible moments. I just love the vibes of this movie. It's not perfect, but there is enough goodness in this movie to where I am just hyped every time I see the poster for it, because it reminds me of all the cool shit in this movie. Stop motion's awesome. If you haven't seen it, it's on Shudder. Go watch it. From a masterpiece to a masterpiece of shit, Red One. You know, my mom wanted to watch this for like family movie night. I don't want to say it's trash, because you know what? As not great as it is, it's not terrible. I could watch it again. It looks really ugly. For a movie, I think this had like the highest budget out of any movie here, I think. Dude, why does it look so like bland and not good? What the hell? Chris Evans, he has his moments in this. It's just not very good, but I would watch it over any of these movies down here. It's not totally garbage, but it is very close to it. So you hang at the very bottom of meh, Red One. You're lucky that my mom enjoyed it, and that made me happy. So that's your main redeeming quality. And here we have Problemista, a movie that I don't hear talked about enough. Tilda Swinton in this, she is so funny and just so cuckoo, so wacky. Maybe not top of good, maybe honestly bottom of great. It is that fun. It's very colorful. The main character, Alejandro, is like an aspiring toy designer, and some of his like designs that they show a compilation of are so damn funny. Problemista was a really sweet movie. Next up is I Saw the TV Glow. This is a very different movie, but one I still really enjoyed. I probably put it just a smidge above Problemista. I love the look of this movie. I love our characters. Every scene in this movie, I'm pretty sure, has some sort of glow in it, and the atmosphere is off the charts. Justice Smith and Bridget Lundy Payne are absolutely fantastic in this movie. Honestly, the most memorable looking movie of 2024 in my opinion, and the message behind it is also really strong. So everything about it worked for me. I did not expect to like it as much as I did, but it worked for me. A movie that didn't work for me, Joker Folie à Deux. Oh, Joker Part 2. Lady Gaga as Harley Quinn was good. I liked Lady Gaga in this. And that is about all I can say. I don't want to say it's trash, but oh my god, is it like, it is on that line, buddy. I don't think Joker needed a sequel, nor did it need to be a musical, and for a musical, it's not a very good musical. You know what? I'm putting it top of trash. Just because I, like, at least these 4 movies I could go back and rewatch. Lady Gaga, if I could just take your section out and put you in meh, I would, but I can't. Beetlejuice. I love Beetlejuice. My favorite movie of all time. The look of this movie, all of the characters, it's all back, but the story just feels a bit too like heavy. Like Jenna Ortega's whole side thing with that one kid who, spoiler, gets sent straight to hell by Beetlejuice. That scene is great, but everything before that with that kid's character and his relationship with Jenna Ortega, it's like, I do think Astrid is a very good fit in this world, and Winona Ryder is great, Catherine O'Hara is great, Michael Keaton is great. Willem Dafoe is great. He's not in it a whole bunch, but every time Wolf Jackson is on screen, I'm like, hell yeah, let's go. It's gonna go at the very top of good. I could put it in great, but I think I need to give it a rewatch. Just something didn't click. It didn't capture the same magic as the original, but I didn't think it was going to. If there was just a few minor tweaks to it, I think it could go in great. The Substance is such a great movie. Demi Moore just won her Golden Globe the other night, and absolutely deserved The Substance. Body horror galore, thank you ma'am. It's pretty much perfect, and it is tied for my movie of the year with Flow. I keep going back and forth. I feel like it's pretty rare to mix like really good horror elements with a really good story. Usually one outweighs the other. This balances, no pun intended, everything perfectly, and I think that's very hard to do. And they did it. Challengers is next, and I didn't quite think I'd like it as much as I did, but oh boy, is this movie excellent as all hell. It's going above Longlegs, you know what, even though Fall Guy didn't make it into the top 10, I'd probably rather watch Fall Guy over Challengers. Challengers is still going in great tier because all 3 actors are fantastic. The trio's character dynamic throughout the whole movie, they jump around through the timeline of their relationship. The final scene where like the tennis ball is the camera, Holy hell, it's so damn cool. Challengers could go in that category, a very surprising movie where I knew it was going to be good, but I did not expect to like it as much as I did. Challengers is great. Everybody says it's great, and you should believe them. And now we have Late Night with the Devil, a very short, simple, to the point horror movie. The effects are great. Lily is such a creepy character on this talk show, and every time she looks into the camera, it gave me the heebie-jeebies. Although the ending is a bit hit or miss, I think it's fine. It could have been a bit better. Late Night with the Devil is one of the best horror movies of the year, hands down. Probably tied with Longlegs, and this like area right here in the middle, I'll put it under for now. But, you know, I could go back and forth with these two. Sonic 3 was so much fun. It's going in peak. Another movie I've talked about a few times already on the channel. Jim Carrey. Best supporting actor right there, ladies and gentlemen. Gerald Robotnik, Dr. Robotnik. That dance scene that they do in, like, the middle of the movie. I've seen it on Twitter so many times, and I watch it every time because it's so damn funny and it's so silly. Sonic, Tails, Knuckles, and Shadow are all awesome. Such a great theater experience. The final act was nuts. I did not expect it to go as hard as it did. I knew I was gonna like it regardless. Not sure if it's better than the first Sonic, but it's pretty close. It might be my favorite. Alien Romulus. I saw this in theaters as well. They were blasting the sound out of the speakers. Holy hell. This movie looks really great. The visuals are nice. The floating acid, like the zero gravity, that bit was awesome. So many xenomorphs, so many face huggers. Andy the android was a highlight. Although it does take a bunch of the elements from the first Alien movie, it still looks really cool and tells an alright story. I'm not gonna go against it. Probably very top of good, maybe a smidge under Beetlejuice, just because, you know, this one's more fun. But Alien Romulus was a great time. Also, that tall bastard at the end, oh my god. My Old Ass is next, and this was such a heartwarming movie, especially all of the moments regarding the family where Aubrey Plaza tells her younger self to hang out with them more. Maisie Stella is fantastic in the leading role. Originally, I would probably put this in good, but because of like that whole family stuff they had in it, it really got to me. Like, spend a lot of time with your family, because when you get older, you might not have the chance to do it as much, or in some cases at all. I think it earns its spot in great. Another movie I want more people to talk about, Love Lies Bleeding. This thing was an absolute adventure, that's for sure. I thought it was going to be more of a horror movie, but it's more of like a crime, kind of like thriller type of movie. Also sprinkle in some family drama. Kristen Stewart and Katie O'Brien absolutely killed it in this. I wasn't entirely sure what I was getting myself into, but I was invested pretty much the whole entire time. For that, I'm going to put it in great. I don't know where in great, probably just a tiny bit under I Saw the TV Glow. Now we have Drive Away Dolls, and I actually did a YouTube video on this movie. It was one of my first, and some people did not care for this. I think it got mainly not so great reviews. I thought this was a fun movie. I really don't see the issue with it. I mean, yeah, it's kind of like plain Jane, nothing too out of the box crazy with it, but it's a nice little like buddy comedy. One of our characters is trying to like discover themselves along the way, I guess. And you know what? It has some pretty funny moments in it too. So I really don't have an issue with it. It's not great by any means, but I thought it was nice. It's somewhere in the middle of good tier. I'm going to put it slightly above In a Violent Nature. Also another Margaret Qualley movie where she does great, so there you go. Another movie that doesn't have too many fans, Ghostbusters Frozen Empire. This is the, fifth Ghostbusters movie I want to say? This might be a hot take, probably my second favorite Ghostbusters. Obviously the first is my number one. But this was a ton of fun. There are a bunch of characters in this, and I think that was the main complaint that I saw. I loved pretty much all the characters. I didn't really have an issue with any of them. So I'm going to put Ghostbusters Frozen Empire top of good. I do wish it focused a bit more on the new Ghostbusters, like McKenna Grace and Finn Wolfhard, but that's like my only big complaint. It's still really good, and I had a blast watching it in the theaters. Now we have Hitman. Everybody loved Hitman. I also liked Hitman. I'm not as huge on it as everybody else. But like I said about Twisters, Glenn Powell is hella charming, and this is a pretty fun movie. The more I think about it, the more it does grow on me. It's gonna go somewhere in the middle of good. Might go right next to Twisters. You know, two Glenn Powell movies right next to each other. It is a very good and interesting rom-com, and I do think rewatching it would bump it up a few spots, but for now it's gonna sit in good. Here we have Conclave, and I was really hyped for this movie. I saw the cast, I saw what it was about, and I thought I was gonna absolutely love Conclave, and it was really, really good up until the end. Just, the ending isn't terrible by any means. It just isn't what I thought it was gonna be. It just felt like we were building up all this momentum to get the big reveal of who's gonna be the next pope, and it just kind of ends on a okay. Ray Fiennes was still really good. Stanley Tucci as well, John Lithgow. They're all great. Didn't reach the heights that I wanted it to, so it's gonna sit in good. Just a tiny bit under Alien Romulus. Lisa Frankenstein, another movie I did a video on. I think it was actually my first ever video out on this channel. Katherine Newton is one of my favorite actresses, and of course she's a blast to watch in this. Cole Sprouse as well does a good job as like the undead boyfriend or whatever. It's a decent romantic comedy with horror themes thrown in there. Just wasn't one of my favorites of the year. I really don't have anything bad to say about it. I'm gonna put it right above Hitman. It's a movie I wish I liked a bit more, but I am satisfied with what I got. Now, a movie I did not expect to get a whole lot from, but definitely did, Carry On, Netflix original movie. Holy hell, they were cooking with this one. Taron Egerton and especially Jason Bateman, they knock it out of the park, especially Jason Bateman as this like calm, threatening earpiece guy trying to do his mission of spreading this like toxic gas or whatever he's doing. He's an absolute menace in this. This was a great thriller from Netflix, and it surprisingly nearly made it into like my top 10 of the year. Gonna put it slightly above Furiosa. I don't know exactly where, but it's gonna go in great. Just big surprise. And here we go, The Strangers Chapter 1. There's Chapter 2 and Chapter 3 still to come out, and they better be absolute bangers, otherwise this thing was a complete failure, and what the hell was even the point? It's just the first movie, but kind of restructured ever so slightly. It came out, what, 2008 maybe? It's way too soon to do any sort of reboot, but here we are. Why didn't they just continue Prey at Night? That's one of the best horror movies of the last decade. They left the ending open for a possible sequel to that, and they should have just done that. And the more I think about it, the more it makes me mad at The Strangers Chapter 1. What the hell? It's going in trash. Sasquatch Sunset. Jesse Eisenberg is in this thing. And they're all Sasquatches. There's like 4 or 5 of them, and they're living their life. I really wanted to like this, because I like silly movies like this, but it really just is like wild Sasquatch noises in nature. The story it's telling, I think at least it's trying to tell, especially towards the end, we get like a big like slap in the face of like what's going on and kind of what the whole point of the movie is supposed to be about. Just maybe if it was done a different way, I would have liked it more, but it just wasn't anything great. Sasquatch Sunset is gonna go in meh. A movie I just watched the other day, The Front Room. It was on my watch list for a while. I missed it when it came to theaters because it was only there for like a week or two. The Front Room with Brandy and Catherine Hunter. Fantastic. Well, fantastic might be a stretch. It's not great. It tells a story, but it doesn't really do anything, if that makes sense. Like, I really don't know how to describe it. It doesn't feel complete. However, the ending we do get from this movie, because Catherine Hunter played such a good villain as Solange, because of that character, the ending of this movie, I'm not gonna spoil it, it's so damn satisfying. I leaped off my bed and like did like a little, like the end of the Breakfast Club, little jump air punch, because it was just the music that was playing and watching what Brandy does at the end. Ah, hell yeah. The movie's not great, but it has some wild moments that'll live with me for a bit. Just a touch above Killer's Game, a little under Transformers 1. Maybe it's just because I watched it recently, and the more that time goes by, I'll probably lower it, but as of right now, I think it's a very fun horror movie that's not great, but I don't think it was ever gonna be great. Just a fun little one-and-done watch, haha, goofy time. Hundreds of Beavers was very Looney Tunes, creative, fun, goofy all around. Just, I don't know. This movie didn't click for me as it did for a lot of people. Some people are saying this is the best comedy of the year, and I get it. I see where you're coming from. Although I do have Flo in my #1 spot, I would appreciate dialogue in my movies. Sometimes it works, and sometimes it doesn't. This does work, but it's definitely a movie I don't ever think I'll go back and watch. But I can't deny its greatness. It's going bottom of great. Other than, like, old cartoons, I don't think I have seen the jokes that this thing, like, lays out and gives to us. So props, but I don't think I'll ever go back and watch this ever. But I'm acknowledging that it is a very, very good comedy movie. And now we have Inside Out 2. Not a great sequel, but it isn't bad. And Maya Hawke as Anxiety, one of my favorite characters of 2024. I think Anxiety was portrayed so well. Her voice fit the character. It's mainly Anxiety. She carries this damn movie. Very bottom of great, actually above Hundreds of Beavers. MaXXXine is next, and X is okay. Pearl, I absolutely love. And to end the trilogy, we have MaXXXine, and it was a slight letdown. It wasn't bad, but I wish it was a tiny bit better. Very, very top of meh slowly climbing to good, but it just didn't do a whole lot for me. Kevin Bacon's in it and he's fun, but the ending bit where we get the reveal of like who's been kind of tormenting MaXXXine, it didn't land for me. You know, that's pretty much it. The rest of the movie is fine. If the ending was just slightly better, maybe I could put it in good, but it just, honestly, I'd put it under Nightbitch. But just knowing how good Pearl was, I just wish MaXXXine was better. That's, I'm kind of bummed out by it. All right, here we go. We have Trap. I think this is a really big divisive pick right here because some people love it. It's a bit campy. The acting is questionable. I mean, the acting's good, but like the line delivery and like, the lines themselves. M. Night Shyamalan has a style, that's for sure. Trap 100% worked for me. I was locked in the entire movie. The main character, Cooper, has mom issues, and that is used against him, and that kind of bummed me out. It was kind of mid, like, oh, whatever. But then Trap gets saved at the very end with the showdown between him and his wife, and that little, like, one-on-one conversation that they have. It's very intense, and it saves the movie. It's going in great. Not top 10 worthy. It's definitely an honorable mention. One of those movies where if they just tweaked one thing about it, it would be an all-timer. My favorite Shyamalan movie, believe it or not. Gonna put it right under Late Night with the Devil. Anora! Yippee! Anora was getting so much award buzz. Didn't win a single Golden Globe, which I think is kind of silly. But Demi Moore won Best Actress, so sorry, Mikey Madison. Although you do deserve it. I love that Demi Moore won it, so sorry. I don't love Anora as much as everyone else does, but it is still a very good movie. I don't want it to seem like I didn't like the movie. I loved it. Very bottom of great. Oh, well, probably above Inside Out 2 and some of these other movies here. Actually, slightly under I Saw the TV Glow. Anora is great, Mikey Madison is great. The only reason I think I don't care for the movie as much as others is because they were hyping this thing up to death. Night Swim is another movie I made a video on, and it's bad. While not as bad as everyone says it is, I could rewatch it. It's just very bland, very lame Blumhouse. Blumhouse can pump out some bangers, this was not one of them. Mess isn't the right word, it's kind of nothing. It's kind of just like Nightbitch, where if they went all in with the silly premise, I would have loved it. Ooh, it's a killer swimming pool, everybody run, see, that's fun. But they kind of played it real serious. It's a killer swimming pool. You can't take that seriously, but you do. Winnie the Pooh, Blood and Honey 2. What an absolute glow up. Not just because it's better than the first one by miles. I genuinely enjoyed Winnie the Pooh, Blood and Honey 2. The first one is absolutely terrible. This is actually one of my favorite horror movies of 2024. It's on the lower end of that list, but damn, I had fun watching it. There's like a giant killing spree towards the end of the movie that goes crazy. The effects are way better, like the looks of, the 100 Acre Woods characters. Everything looks better, and it's gonna go slightly under Hitman. I was so surprised by how much I enjoyed this movie, and I know a lot of people probably just didn't enjoy it, but will admit that it is better. I actually enjoyed it. The Watchers is up next, and it's another movie that people didn't really care for, but again, I'm kind of a fan of it. It's not perfect. The first bit of it is kind of boring. The very end of the movie is what really made me fall in love with it. The last shot that we get and like the last line that our main character delivers is like kind of chilling and kind of creepy, and it really has just stuck with me all year. So for that, I'm gonna put it in good. Probably just a bit above Despicable Me for... You know what? I'm putting it above Monkey Man 2. I don't care. Yell at me all you want. I know it's a really good action movie, but Watchers, while not great, I think it has its moments, and I'm kind of a fan of it. We're almost done now. We're at the home stretch. We have Sting, another horror movie that I don't think has too many fans, but I am a fan of this. It's a spider that gets bigger and bigger and hides in the air vents and all that stuff, and just like it captures people and like kills people, and it's silly. It's a silly horror movie, and I love me some silly horror movies. The ending is kind of whatever, just like some of these other movies, but I really don't have much else to say. It's fun. There's also some family drama in this thing, and who doesn't love a bit of drama? I'm putting Sting in like the upper part of good. Probably just a touch under The Killer's Game. I liked it way more than I thought I would. And, okay, now don't yell at me. Another movie that I liked more than I thought I would. Not way more. Notice how I didn't say way more. Dear Santa, where a kid with dyslexia writes to Satan instead. Jack Black actually kinda carries. He's not that bad. He really throws his whole jacuzzi into this. I don't know why I said that, but he kinda goes nuts as this Satan character. Now all of the kid-related stuff and all the Post Malone stuff and all that, it's kinda cringe. It's pretty cringe, but it's more of a kid's movie with some like adult stuff thrown in there. So call me crazy, but Dear Santa might just be meh. It's borderline trash because it is pretty cringy and sometimes tough to watch, but because of Jack Black. I think he single-handedly saves this movie from being trash. Smile 2. I think it's better than the first Smile, and I wasn't a big fan of Smile 1 at first, but I rewatched it before watching Smile 2, and I liked it a bit more. Smile 2 went a bit more crazy. Naomi Scott absolutely crushed it. The whole pop star thing is great. There's a few moments, especially towards the end, that were like, whoa, and then the ending stretch itself is fantastic. One of the best ending stretches to a horror movie all year and the past couple of years. It's going in great. There's potential for a top 10 contender. It could end up in this chunk over here, but it's gonna stay maybe a smidge under Carry On. It's probably around Trap because both movies have to deal with like concerts and like pop artists doing stuff. And they both really worked for me this year. And finally, to end this video, Juror number 2, which funnily enough was the last movie I watched. And Nicholas Hoult, my beloved, becoming one of my favorite actors, slowly but surely. What a great movie, courtroom drama, and nothing we haven't seen before, like 12 Angry Men, very 12 Angry Men-like, but there's more moral stuff thrown in, not just like the jury, debating on if a guy's guilty or not. Let's look at all the facts. Let's give him a chance. Let's hear him out. But because of the situation that Nicholas Holt's character is in, it makes it way more interesting. I'm not saying it's better than 12 Angry Men, but it makes for a very interesting courtroom drama scenario. Lots of big questions are thrown around, and the ending, just like a few other movies I've mentioned, the ending shot, once you watch this movie, you think you get to the very end, you're like, oh, okay, but then the last, 20 seconds, you're like, ooh, okay. And I was a big fan of the ending, the zoom in on Nicholas Holt's face. I'm not gonna spoil it. It just dropped on Max a bit ago. You should go and watch it. It's going in great. I don't know where, because it's still very fresh in my mind. Slightly above my old ass. Nicholas Hoult did a great job. Everybody did a great job with this movie. Directed by Clint Eastwood, who's in his 90s. So there you go. And there you have it. 2024 movies all on this beautiful tier list. We got peak, great, good, meh, trash. Do you agree with us? Probably not. Everyone's going to have a different layout, and I think that's what's really cool about movies, is each movie's going to have a billion different opinions about it. Let me know your thoughts on the tier list in the comments below, and I will see you in the next video. Pretty sure we're going back to movie reviews for a few weeks, and then who knows what other videos I'll come out with, but that's going to do it for me, and I will see you in the next video. Goodbye.